It's your boy Steiner here at Secondhand Talent. Hope you are all having a wonderful Wednesday. Just want to give a quick shout out. Thanks to Tenacious Toys for giving us some props with these guys over here. And I'd like to introduce my guest for this week, Bob Doerr, live sound master. Bob, welcome to the show.
What's up, everyone?
Thank you so much for being here. And we have one question that we start out every show with. If you had never heard the term secondhand talent before, secondhand, goddamn, I can't
What's
even
the name of your show?
Yeah, if you had never heard the term secondhand talent before, what would that mean to you?
Okay, so it's hard because I thought about what I was going to say to this because I listened to the podcast. But,
Like and subscribe.
yeah. Wait, click like and subscribe.
Click like.
Wait, comment like. It's YouTube, whatever.
Whatever.
All right. So when I think about secondhand talent, I think it's a little weird because I don't want to call anybody's talent like secondhand. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And when I think of secondhand, it's almost like I play a lot of golf, so I think about like my secondhand clubs, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
But I feel like maybe we're living like our current secondhand talent, because in the future you'll probably look back on this and be like, damn, I could have done that better.
Interesting. So like kind of like, so if I'm hearing you right, secondhand talent is kind of like a career stage.
Yeah, like I would consider some of the things I did in the past like secondhand to what I do now.
And so it's okay. So it's it's a twofold thing. So it's like what you do, but it's also so it's how you progress in your profession, but also within your profession.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I wouldn't want to say anything I do is secondhand. You know what I'm saying?
Could you give like an example of like something you feel that like this is kind of like secondhand to like what I'm doing now? Like I'd love to hear.
Yeah, so let me think about this for a second. So like I just look back at like how I used to approach gigs and like workflow and how like you kind of get wired to do it better the more you do it. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, absolutely.
And
the more you go down and the more things get ingrained.
Sometimes you learn things the hard way more often than not. And
very true.
It's okay to fail, you know? It's okay to question why you do things. And I just look back at like some of the mistakes I've made and I kind of laugh at them now. And it's okay to make mistakes. And
what's a notable mistake that you made that really was a learning moment for you?
So when I was like 24, it was like the first time I mixed the Congress Theater.
Okay. Yep. I absolutely do.
Beirut was the headliner.
Okay.
And there was some weird singer-songwriter opener. Just like, it was weird. I don't know what she was trying to do. Maybe I was just too young and didn't really get it. But the console, it's a Yamaha PM5D. It's Gear Talk, but it's a big old digital desk. And there's a thing that happens on that desk with the keyboard. If you hit the enter key on like the far right side, you accidentally switch scenes to the next page or whatever. And I was leaning on the desk and I just leaned on it with my elbow.
Oh no.
And this opener, like, it completely mutes her mic. It opens up all the other mics on stage, and just like you hear this swell over the PA. And it was like the longest 10 seconds of my life.
I can't even imagine what
I'm like 24. It's my first time mixing this place. I'm like all gung-ho. I think I'm the shit because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm mixing the Congress. I saw my first concert here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then you accidentally hit that enter key and the entire sound setting system shifts, and you're just like, oh
yeah.
no,
yeah, my heart literally is like boom, boom.
I mean, and I guess that get out of that, that awareness and that the need for situational awareness and everything you do all the time. I guess it's a really good lesson. And
yeah, you kind of learn if you're like in a new situation. It's almost like the KISS acronym, like keep it simple, stupid.
Sure.
Like,
absolutely.
If you are doing something new and maybe it's a new piece of gear you've never worked on, it's like, just like, don't do anything dumb. You know?
Like
Yeah.
don't go for the home run
Yeah,
like
yeah.
right away.
Like,
Like try to get a feel
yeah,
for the new pitcher
it's
first, you know,
yeah,
like get a couple check swings.
it's also not really like your role as an engineer to, you know, try and like go above. Well, I wouldn't say you always want to go above and beyond, but it's not your role to like take away from the artist's, set
Sure. Okay.
because
Yeah.
you don't know what you know what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah, well you don't so if I understand you correctly, you don't want to, take the limelight, in the show. I think part of
yeah,
being secondhand talent, right, in kind of the traditional sense as we've defined it on the show,
yeah,
one of the themes that we've come back to again and again is that, if we're doing our jobs well, nobody knows we're there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a big thing of the industry is, you only really are seen when you fuck up.
You,
For the
you,
most part, there's people that know when it's
there's
good. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
there's well, yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we've talked about, on here again and again is this, theme of how secondhand talent, and one of the reasons we like to use this platform is that it's not a lot of household names, it's not a lot of people that are recognized or known. However, their contributions to making the show happen well, you know
Sure.
it's because you can't point them out that
Yeah.
you had a great time at the
No,
show.
I definitely like that part of it. Like, I don't need people to, you know who I've worked for per se. It's not like I'm chasing that type of cloud or whatever. And plus, like, you could tell somebody you worked for X, Y, and Z, and it's like you're still not X, Y, and Z.
True.
You're like a vessel for them to perform and
That's that's the Spaceballs relationship.
yeah.
It's like you might as well be like my brother's father's son's uncle's gardener's daughter. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you're not them.
Yeah, you're not
You're
them.
doesn't matter what kind of relationship spin you put
Yeah.
on it. Like,
And your role really is to just, help them perform at, a high level, really. Like, you want the artist to be comfortable.
right. And to be able to rely on the work
Yeah,
that you do. I mean, that confidence is kind of what I feel like makes or breaks your career progression. It's
for
like,
sure.
when you have the confidence from the artist that everything's going to sound fine,
Yeah.
that takes so much more. I would imagine it takes so much more pressure off of you.
Um, it doesn't, it doesn't though, because like I've been out with some artists where like I'm like, holy fuck, how am I working for this person? Like, I grew up listening to their records, and you almost have to rewire your brain to like, you could be in modern world doing ears for so and so, and you could get caught up in the music, but you still have a job to perform, and you have to remember like you want to make it as easy as possible for them,
Right.
and you want to stay out of their way to an extent, or have things good enough for it to be out of their way so they're not thinking about that when they're performing. And I think there's a certain art of almost like psychology to being a really good monitor person, where you have to just kind of understand, what your role is and how to provide like a comforting service for the artist.
So what was it that kind of brought you into that wanting to be in that sphere? Was there, I know when I was younger, like I was fascinated with different parts of audio mixology and being able to put sounds together and overdub things. I'm curious, where did you,
Uh,
how,
how I hopped in it.
what angle did you come into this from?
I
Yeah.
was like the kid who got the multi-track recorder for Christmas and just like love putting up mics with it. And excuse me. Yeah, I just burped on it. I don't
Yeah,
care.
you know what?
It's early.
It is what it is.
It
Don't
is
judge
what
it.
it
Don't judge
is.
us.
I hope you leave that in.
No,
Uh,
no edits.
no edits allowed. So I would, record demos of my friends' bands in high school, and then I would even like help them with shows. I just kind of, it was like a community almost or
Sure.
whatever. And
Yeah.
then I really grew to appreciate records and just like how they sounded, and you could start to almost like recognize like patterns of like, why does this record sound like this record? You're like, oh, it's produced by the same person.
Right. So you're talking about like when you get let's say like a Parlophone record versus an RCA record,
I'm talking about
or
like a producer, like their touch on a record.
so the actual lacquering and cutting and
Yeah,
finishing and the production of the record as a
like
whole.
the studio
Got it.
producer. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about one step back. So
Yeah, yeah,
got it,
one
got
step
it.
back of that. And I started in like the studio or whatever. It's kind of funny. Like I went to Columbia for a semester. I dropped out because I got an internship through a friend of mine. And like I was like, why do I need to go to college? I have this internship. And then they broke up, and she was like, oh, it's either me or him, and it got like weird or whatever. I flopped. I like moved back in with my parents to the suburbs, and I did that for a while. I was also caddying, which probably explains some of my approach to things. Like you're almost like a sound caddy.
That's a good point actually. So caddies are the secondhand talent of golf.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but a really good caddy will fucking help you win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Like people don't want to give caddies credit a lot of the times if you like read comments and you troll people on Facebook or whatever, which, it's fun. I'd
Yeah,
recommend sometimes, don't do too
don't, yeah,
much.
don't like
Don't overdo
don't
it.
be a dick,
Yeah,
but
don't overdo it.
yeah,
But
find your lane.
but the point is like somebody won with that caddy. You don't know if they would have won or lost without that caddy.
Right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right. Can't say that for sure.
Yeah, you just
Absolutely.
can't say that. But basically, my parents got sick of me. They kicked me out. I started living at a recording studio, and I'll name it. It's Dr. Woods. It's in Fox River Grove, and it's funny because the owner of it, Buddy, we're good friends. I could talk about this now. Like he wasn't supposed to know I was living there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly
And
what you're
like
saying.
living there, there's no shower. It like I'd have to like beg my friends to come get me. You know what I mean? There was like a bathroom, it wasn't heated, and like you take like gross sink showers. I was poor as shit. Like you make decisions like, am I gonna buy toothpaste or peanut butter? With like the
Yep,
few bucks you got.
yep. Life's heavy questions.
Yeah, like totally lived like 7 months where like I reversed my sleep schedule because I didn't want them to know I was living there. So like when you would
Oh man.
you would hear the drum store like was above us. So when the drums stopped, 9 o'clock rolls around, you're like, ooh, I'm gonna play with mics and make noise and do all that. It's interesting. Yeah. And then you do enough of that type of work where I might have some regrets about not pursuing it more. But when you're cutting your teeth as like a demo engineer, you get like so many projects that they don't have budgets or they're like kids. And this is back in like the MySpace days, right? So I remember I used to like look up when you know, like you could see new pages, new band pages.
Sure. Yeah.
So I would search for like new band pages, and if they didn't have demos, I'd like send them a reel, that type of game.
So yeah, so I mean that was so for those in our audience who don't understand what this era is like or what the grind is like, this is essentially, going through the earliest version of social media that there was.
It was tits.
It was in fact tits.
Yeah.
I can certify that. Um Going back through looking for new band pages that are getting created, seeing if they have music produced, and if not, proactively looking up their contact information.
Yeah, you would hustle
And
that way.
I mean, I know that struggle.
Yeah.
And then hoping that once you send whatever you know, if you send your reels to them, they listen to it, they care about it, they read your email, you know, the I mean, you have to be doing that nonstop.
Yeah, it's a grind. And then it's like, I was fortunate that like I could kind of attach my name to the guy I interned for because like I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Like I knew not to clip things and like I was still like learning how to mix, but it was like, oh, I interned under the guy who worked on like the first Fall Out Boy record. And that's like a total buzzword.
Right. That's so at the like that would be, I guess that would also be at the time be like the prehistoric age of clout chasing
Yeah, that
would
was like
be
that's
like
what
the
you did in the
it was
beginning
name
though.
dropping.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
clout
Yeah,
chased.
you use like whatever those associations you had. You're
And it's
just
like,
like, this is what my cousin is friends with Bob Ezrin.
yeah,
Like
yeah, it's funny to look back on and it's what you did though. I mean, like, what else are you gonna do? Like you're selling yourself and you don't
yeah,
really have a product.
yeah.
I mean,
I
I
mean,
have
you are the
yeah, you
product.
are the product. I had the records I helped under him, you know what I'm saying? And those help, but you're not in the same studio, you
No.
know. That was like Ivy Labs and Gravity, like, legit places. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what was the jump that got you from that point in your career of working, and trying to like, sift through these projects? Like, what was the breakthrough that pushed you to your next level?
Well, I think from that experience, I started doing live sound because the dude who let me live in the studio, he has like he had a whole bunch of live stuff, speakers, amps, like hodgepodge of gear. And then since I was living there, it was almost like paying rent, you know.
Sure,
He was like,
sure.
you want to go out to Just for Fun roller rink in McHenry and do this, I'll give you McDonald's and $20. And it was like,
Deal.
deal. And then
Like, let's fucking go.
yeah,
I'm
let's
surprised. Like,
go.
I'm surprised we're not on the way to McDonald's already.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah, I'm
get
getting
let's
some
get out of
Mickey
here.
D's. Like, hell yeah. It's a funny era of my life because like there was times where like I didn't have a car, so I was like using my friends like RV that they would tour with as a vehicle. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, one of the old convertibles, like
Yeah,
the convertibles. Yeah.
yeah. It was just like
Heavy quotes,
it
convertibles.
was it was funny. I mean, some of the shit we did, even when we started like touring in our early 20s, you know what I mean, was like, holy shit, what were we doing? Like,
When you were on the when you were touring, you were playing
no, I was
as
like
well. You
doing
were on the
sound.
road just doing
I was
sound.
doing sound or at least helping do sound. It was like, well, he lives at a studio and he has nothing else to do. He can like sell your merch.
And that's kind of how you like would kind of
I
justify the fact that you were staying there. Is kind of like, I'll pitch in and do
I'll
like
pitch in
and
and
do all
yeah, I
this
mean,
other
he had a
stuff.
label and some of them were the bands on the label and it's just like, I don't know. It was a way to get out and, you know,
No, fair enough. I mean,
do that.
so what was like I guess then going off of that, what was like a formative experience you had doing sound early on where you were like, oh, I can really do this as a career?
Uh, um, I feel like I never really, I don't remember a moment where I was like, oh, damn, this will be my career. I was
Well,
more like,
not necessarily that it'll be your, but just like that, like a level to where you're like, this is something I can do consistently enough to be considered a career.
I think once I started just like mixing local shows, like 4 or 5 nights a week, I was like, okay, this is a job. And there was enough separation from the artists that you were like, oh, cool. Cause like when you record those demos with all these young bands, you get sucked into all the band
All the
drama,
drama. Yep.
all the
All of
drama.
it. All,
And
not
then
just a little bit of it, all of it.
all of it. And people want to know what you think about this, this, and this. And you just like it could become exhausting, or you're working with people that, you know, God bless them, you're just not really into their art.
Yeah, that can get a little squirrely when
Yeah.
you're
When it becomes a job.
well, also when it becomes a
Yeah.
job, right? Capital job, right? And
Yeah.
then also when other people don't respect the fact that, like, we're not we're not friends. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, with
Yeah. I mean,
all due respect,
you're all,
like,
also in this era, we were like kids, you know what I mean?
right.
So I worked for this guy, and he put this situation well. Like, he could give some examples of some bands that, you know, blew up and started, you know, getting the ego going and whatever. And I think part of it is it can happen to people just when they're younger, you know? Like, I can look
Fair.
back at stupid shit I did when like I was touring, but what he said was like they could do what they want. I'll see them on the way down.
Right. What is that? Is it Little Feat covers it? I think it's an Alan Toussaint song, On Your Way Down,
Yeah.
right? Um,
I just system tech a
and you
show
can meet
for
up.
them.
You're going to see them on your way down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They were great.
Yeah, I mean, "were" is a strong word.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing is, like, the artist who I'm referring, yeah, that's a very true point. Is, I'll catch you on the downward spiral. Is like, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, what the that's the other time that the broken clock is right. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's one of the first time is on the way up, and then it's that exact same position when you pass
Pass
them
it
there
down.
on the way
The
down. Yeah.
downward spiral, also, you got to imagine for an artist, that's got to be dark as fuck. Because, like, you live your life where you do all these shows in these large rooms, everybody loves you, right? And then it slowly starts to fade and the
Yeah.
crowds become smaller. And you look at that and you're like, I wonder how that affects them.
I mean, I preemptively did that by never drawing large crowds ever. So for me, it
You're just
was,
protecting
yeah,
yourself.
that was
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
hedging my bets
Yeah.
for my own mental well-being, is
Yeah.
to not be
But,
successful.
like, do
But
you
I
prepare
hear that.
yourself for that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you're up there, I think people think it's never going to end.
From Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I have never let crowd size get to me, because I did one show in my life that I could confidently say there were over 5,000 people in attendance.
Sure.
Just
That's a
one.
lot of people.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
fucking
That's a
people.
lot of
It's
people.
and it was not um a planned performance either.
Oh, awesome.
And it
Wingding that
and
shit.
it went so well that I got to do it again the next day.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I've never performed in front of that size crowd since.
Yeah.
But I don't think of that show as like a zenith or an apex of
Sure.
my stand-up career. I think of that as a really cool highlight. Now,
I get that.
immediately
Yeah.
afterwards, however,
Yeah.
it was real that I was
Oh
just like,
yeah. The next
why,
couple months.
where's the,
Yeah.
like, almost like that fucking John Travolta meme of like,
No, I get it. It's like I was just out with an artist that I like love. It was I got to cover somebody who's on retainer with a bigger artist, and it was like, hey, can you do these dates? It's for this person. And I was like, I'm booked a shit ton of these dates, but let me cover them. So I go do it, and you know, I fill the dates or whatever. And this is kind of funny because it's how it can end so quickly. The last show I did with them was in Grand Rapids. My buddy hopped back on in Chicago. It was Chicago theater. And I went to the show because, like, I was in monitors. I wanted to hear the show. You know what I mean? Plus, it's like, it's a nice way to say bye and all that.
sure.
The very next day, I go back to working my corporate job. I do a lot of corporate sound. And it was this party where like the client didn't want to see the speakers. They put them behind drape, like thick drape. And like you're just telling the client, like, this is gonna sound like shit, and they don't get it. And like I'm kind of at this point where I could kind of make that work. So it's not the worst thing in the world. But also, since I know that, I'll let them almost kind of like hang themselves.
Oh, so you're saying just like it's your rope thing. Let us tell
Yeah,
you easy,
yeah.
like
It's
to or
like
not. Yeah,
I'm not
okay, all
gonna
right.
argue with this person when it's like I'm telling you what's gonna happen. You're being stubborn. So like,
Like you
yeah,
will go out of your way to make the suggestion, but you're not going to go out of your way to make them see
yeah.
reason.
Maybe if it was like a bigger event, I would fight harder, obviously. But it was like a pretty small event, and it was just background music. But the point is, you can go from like Chicago theater like to two channels on a crappy desk just
Like
like
that,
that.
like that.
Yeah. And I remember just being like, holy shit, I am so sad right now.
You went from 60 to 0 real
Yeah,
quick
like,
right there, bud.
yeah,
Yeah, that's that top. Yeah, that's a pretty great example of that deceleration.
yeah. So like that's funny. I've had some pretty funny ones also that are like not like that, but if you do corporate, you end up working a lot of like political stuff. And I used to tour with this paint party. It's not around anymore. It's called Life in Color. So I'll talk about it, but it was the world's biggest paint party. I was the systems guy in front of house. So, fly PA, do front of house for the show. And in the same week, um, I went from doing this rave, which might as well be a wet t-shirt contest, to then doing house sound. This is 2016 or 15. House sound for Bernie Sanders
Huh.
was on a show. I'm not going to name the show because I don't think I can.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So
So
that's again
it's
another pretty radical jump
it's
right there.
really funny to be like, I just saw a bunch of people on a shit ton of drugs, and this guy like might be president. Like it's how the industry is.
Yeah, those are two great examples of that back to back kind of immediate
Yeah.
like proton, neutron, positivity, negativity. Obviously, it's great when everything goes great, but I think the things that it sticks out more in our heads when things go wrong. What are some examples of times when of secondhand talent gone awry in your experience?
So I was out with an artist last year. I'm not gonna name him because I'm gonna talk shit.
All
But
right.
he's an older artist. You almost date yourself if you know who he is, because he sold like 140 million records. It's not like Elton John or anybody like that. But
You imagine talking bad shit about Elton
yeah, if
John,
I was
just
talking
like
shit about Elton John on this, I'd be fucked.
this would not survive.
And
This is
it's
not
like
for the record. Just want to make this very clear. This is not about Elton John.
yeah, it's one of those situations where you're working with an older artist and there's variables to it. It's like I have a shit ton of respect for this guy. Like his work ethic is insane for his age. He just wants the show to be right. And I totally get that. But there's certain things that happen, like this guy would do like 3-hour sound checks on ears. And since he's older, he has so much ear fatigue that like his hearing isn't great.
Ooh.
Like it falls in the legally deaf
Oh
category,
boy. Okay.
but
All
like
right.
to an extreme. Like I've seen his charts because you see that when you do monitors for him. So he has a reputation. A lot of people have stories about him, which is funny because like, we were in Reno, Nevada, and doing the job. The house guy comes up to me. He's like, I was his monitor engineer in 1984. And
This
I'm
is
like, he's like, nothing's changed. Ride that bull, buddy. Yeah.
He's like same shit, different decade.
But there's certain things that go wrong when you approach it with that type of work ethic, because if you listen to things at that volume for that long, you're going to develop ear fatigue by the time the show starts. So when the show would start, he would think there was changes to, what I was doing. And then it wasn't a tour package, so we had different gear every night. So there's still minor changes to everything. Like his playback rig, because he has such a big catalog of songs, it's all over the place. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
would be like, it would probably take a really good playback guy like a couple weeks to go through everything.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
a massive.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's a massive
you
catalog.
understand where he's coming from with that, but he would do things like, call you out on stage. He would think it was like his certain ears or like his pack was fucking up, and I'm listening to his pack because that's how I monitor things. It's like same frequency. Like, no, I know it's not your pack. I know that you're just going through ear fatigue. And some of it was like inappropriate to like call me out on stage and like,
Would
and
that happen during a show?
it happened during shows.
Oh God. Oh, see,
Yeah,
that's, you
yeah.
can't,
So like,
don't do
but
that.
he's also like a legend. So like after the shows, you would be hearing, people walking out, oh, it's a shame the sound guy, blah, blah, blah. And you're just
Oh
like,
no, that
and behind the scenes though, you're doing so much for this guy. Like you're emailing like professional audiologists asking how to approach this situation because, the way he hears is significantly different than how, people I would assume our age or have healthy hearing hear. So
sure.
like it was also real fucking interesting because you could hack the EQ for this guy and like he wouldn't hear shit of difference in certain spots. And but if you compress things slightly, he could hear compression
So
instantly.
okay, so it would
And
be
like,
like certain aspects of the sound that just would not get.
yeah. And like even during rehearsals, if the band like maybe didn't know the part as well as he knew, he'd like bam on top of it. Like he was impressively on top of all of that. And that's probably why he's still doing it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, like, not every, I mean, longevity has many root causes, and
Yeah.
one of them is professional consistency. But ideally, you would like that to come with a compatible attitude.
Yeah. I mean, like he's had the best of the best. I don't think I can name who he's had, but it's like there's names you would recognize if you were, in the industry.
Sure.
And the funny thing about him is I started at front of house for him. And the reason I had to move to monitors is like some politics happened. He fired the monitor engineer. So like I knew what I was getting into. You know what I mean? I saw him.
Yeah. So you saw firsthand like
Yeah.
what had happened to the person who was
But
just
also
there.
I was like at front house, I was like, oh, this doesn't look so bad.
Okay. So
Like,
you saw it happen, but you're
yeah.
also like, I have no idea, like
Yeah.
the
It was like
logistics or why or what
it
this
was
person
the
got
tour was
themselves into.
awesome. All the band was awesome. We did like 22 days in Asia. There was only 5 shows, so it was like a paid vacation, that
Nice.
type of deal. It's funny as fuck. He fired his MD before the last show in Bangkok. And this dude was just like, whatever. So he got like fucking drunk about 20 minutes before like the changeover. The dude shows up because he got him to come back and he was fucking drunk. But he like played one of the best shows of the tour. It was just like the no fucks given meter came off.
Yeah, it was just like, fucking, I'm gonna let it rip, and
Yeah, I'm gonna let it rip.
whatever happens happens.
And he fired the monitor guy who was also his production manager. Politics happened, and after that, I like reluctantly took on the monitor position, to say the least. And I don't really hold regrets of doing that. I actually think it made me a lot better in a lot of ways because it was like, people come up to you and you're like, oh, you're in monitor world, you're in the hot seat. And I'm like, I've had way worse hot seats.
But also, you kind of, you stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, yeah. I was
and
like,
you
I was
got the
like,
shit done.
yeah, I was like, I could do this, whatever. And if he doesn't like it, like, oh, I'm gonna be like this person who fires everybody fired me. You know what I mean?
Right. Like,
Like it
so
doesn't
it's kind of a
matter.
win-win no matter what. Like
Yeah,
from a just like from I mean,
it is and it isn't because like there's certain like I,
so it's a win-lose.
I think like if you do this stuff, you have to be really aware of like your own mental health
Yes.
with it. And
Accurate.
for me, like it wasn't so much of him calling me out about it. I figured it out like after I quit. I was just like, I knew he wanted to fire me. I was like, fuck you, I'm gonna fucking quit. Like,
Yeah.
and what really like I think wore on me is when things like that happen, it becomes the thing that everybody wants to talk about. You know what I'm saying? So like maybe I should have been better about making like a boundary with the band, being like, hey guys, we all know he's like this. Like, let's just, you know, move on. And
Let's just get
yeah,
it
let's
done.
just like not talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny though, because like when I quit, we were in Canada. It was like a 12-day run. It was short. And like I couldn't fucking sleep. I was losing sleep over it. I was like, I'm really trying to make things good for this guy. I'm talking to all these people, to help him behind the scenes. And like, I'm presenting him with like what I think's happening. And, he's in that era where the technology isn't what it is now. So like, even things like his mic technique is, he wants to hold it down here because he thinks he needs to control the volume. But that just means like the drums are going to bleed into your mic more, depending on where you're standing on the stage, your mix is just going to change because of how you have to gas it. And I go up to the tour manager and I'm like, hey, I can't take this. I'm not sleeping. I want to go home like as soon as possible. And he's like, you know what? I understand. So how about this? For the rest of the tour, we'll double your pay. And I was like, I could have asked you fucking sooner.
Yeah.
That was my first thought.
Like what? Hold on. Wait. Time out. I would have done well, I would have
Wait,
done
wait,
this
wait. I should have
last
said
week.
something like 3 days
I would have
ago.
done this last week,
That's
man.
like $1,500. What the fuck? you know, like that's free money at that point. But it's situations like that. You know what you're getting into, and you just do it because like you also understand where the artist is coming from. Like it's a weird situation because like you want to make things like good for this guy because you want him to feel good, you want the show to go good.
You want
It's
the audience to feel good. You
yeah,
want
it's
yeah,
like it all ties into each other.
sure.
And it's really weird to not be able to deliver that when you're used to like making people happy. You know what I mean? Like you don't get called back to do some of the things, whatever I've done unless you deliver.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there definitely has to be a certain measure of, you know, a reason to be called back in the eyes
Yeah.
of whoever would be making the call. I do understand as, from the artist's perspective kind of where uh where they're coming from as well as you said. It doesn't make it like I think it really shows your latitude as a professional to be able to like even come back to that because like I know there's some situations that I've been in where it's like you could pay me triple
Yeah.
and I wouldn't do this just because it's fucking killing me.
Part of it is like I'm a little like sick about audio engineering where if it's hard, I almost kind of like it more sometimes.
Yeah.
Just because I'm
Well,
like,
yeah, you got it. The
I
challenge.
shouldn't have been able to do that, but I
I
did.
fucking did.
But I did it. Got him. Like,
What's like or what's an example you'd pull out of like that type of
um,
sorcery?
I mean, a lot of that's corporate because when you do corporate, you really can't tell a client no.
Right. That right. Very
You know what
true.
I mean? And there's a big difference between corporate and rock and roll, where corporate is it's really about predicting the future, right? You see what's going on and you have to know what's going to happen if they do X, Y, and Z. Where kind of in rock and roll, you're reacting.
Yeah.
You're reacting to what's going on.
Yeah, more syncopation.
More so until like, the show, obviously. But there's just like, I've done some high-end weddings where the father of the groom wants to speak on a lavalier mic in the middle of the audience in front of a PA, or there's stupid tricks where it's just like very windy during ceremony for, I signed NDAs, so I can't say who, where it's windy and you need to like get the wind out of the mic in a live situation. And you do tricks with like auto mixers, pink noise not sending to left or right, so it eats the wind noise and you catch it when they talk. That's like
this, and I kind of am getting the drift here, just for our dear listeners.
Yeah, it's like
even I am at the point where I'm hearing this and I'm like, yeah, that's some
yeah, you think outside the box.
That's some lateral thinking shit right there. Yeah.
And I'm sick though, because I'm like, I like that.
But that's the drive. That's what keeps us going. I guess one of the last areas I want to touch on, we've talked in discussion outside the episode, this is such a wonderful city to be in from a musical perspective. We do have so many kick-ass venues and kick-ass bands in this town and that come through this town. What are some of your favorite local spots to mic up?
So it's funny because I'm not really active in the local scene that much anymore, but like I've worked at Metro, worked at Congress, Concord. I've mixed, almost all the venues I can think of other than like the Riv and Talia Hall. But, Metro they just got a new PA and it sounds fucking awesome in there. And it's really nice for me to like go there and hear a newer sound system, because grew up going to a lot of shows there.
Yeah, I think my very first concert was at Metro.
Yeah.
It was the Strokes.
Oh, hell yeah. I just saw the Strokes there last year.
Or the Vines.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah.
Or which one was 20 years ago. So
yeah.
Yeah, I don't fucking remember.
So I was talking to I saw like Dan Monahan from The Dog and Everything. I was working Plain White T show systems, whatever. And I was talking to him about like the first time I was at the Metro. I was teching for my friend's band, who it's actually like Genevieve Schatz. She was the singer of Company of Thieves.
Yeah.
But this is her high school band. Our, Company of Thieves isn't around anymore, so I don't. Yeah, but that's probably where
if you know
her from or whatever. I was like, man, I remember when we opened for you guys at the Metro and like we all thought we were the shit because we were still in high school. And it was just like, it's funny that it comes full circle to like, I lived with Metro's front of house guy. He was my roommate for 4 years.
Yeah.
And he would like call me to help him come, like, tech some things with the system or, check some things out, because my background is pretty heavily in systems, like measurements, reference mic, blah, 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 nerd IT type shit. So, yeah. I'm going with Metro.
Right on. I mean, Metro's a fucking awesome, is an awesome venue. I don't think there's really a way to go wrong with that, but I'll 100% take that as an answer, Bob. So, final question before we wrap up here. If you could, to use the words of our estimable producer, manifest someone to work with,
like who would I want to mix?
Who would you mix? Who would you want to mix live?
All right,
to work with on a consistent basis.
This sucks. I know who this used to be, but they got canceled because the dude's a piece of shit. I always wanted to mix Arcade Fire.
Oh.
But I actually like saw Arcade Fire. My friend was on the tour and I saw them like right after it happened. I didn't know how badly they got canceled. And mixing that band would fucking suck.
Yeah.
Because they all play different instruments. So like it's all over the place. Their front of house guy is, I think he's Radiohead's guy.
That's a level
checks out.
Yep. That checks a lot of boxes.
I would not choose Radiohead. If I could mix like any band ever, I think it would have to be like Rage Against the Machine. just because there's reasons for this. It's like there's only so many instruments. You can make it loud and it's right. And it's just like it'd be pretty easy. I don't want to say easy. I think it would be that difficult to capture that energy just
So you're saying
because
just because I mean, for the love of the music and like
yeah,
it's just that kind of music
it's
where
just
it's
that kind of
like that
music.
just you're fucking in.
Like certain things translate better in a live environment, you know, and they're getting better at it with some of the like immersive sound systems that are out, like Elisa, bands like Bon Iver use, and that shit sounds kick ass. But you know, we're still only really hearing a left, right, or some people like to call it a dual mono system when you see a show. So like you don't really hear a total image at a concert the way it is now. That's slowly starting to change with how the technology is changing. But with the way it is now, like Rage Against the Machine, I would just turn that shit up.
Turn it to 11.
Yeah, but like in a tasteful way.
A tasteful 11.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right on. So we got a tasteful 11 for Rage Against the Machine. Well, Bob, thanks so much for being
Steiner,
on the
thanks, man.
show. This has been an absolute pleasure, and this has been an episode of Secondhand Talent. We'll see y'all next Wednesday.
Have a nice day.
All right.
This concludes our audio broadcast.
Da 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 da.
You have to say that sometimes.
This concludes our audio broadcast. You may not have seen from any of our bloopers, but the way that I count in is 3, 2,
Yeah.
and then I just start talking.
Okay.
It's cool. Crotch in the shot, right on. It's a new one for me, but
Oh, nice.
yeah, we're gonna roll with it.
I'm just gonna present.
Let it all hang out. You know what I mean? You just gotta let it all hang out.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Cool. So 3, 2. How do you want me to introduce you? By the way, I forgot. I mean, that's something that we should definitely go.
My name's Bob Doerr.
All right.
I do live sound and
How about Bob Doerr, live sound master?
I wouldn't call me a master.
Well, I am.
Oh yeah.
I'm calling you the sound master.
Oh,
and then you tell me why. You can tell me why you're not. That'll be part of the interview.
Okay.
All right. Cool. All right.
All right. Cool. Let's go for it.
All right. I'm gonna do a shout out to these guys too, also in the beginning. Don't worry about it.
Right.
3, 2.